I guess we can record. I said all the good stuff anyway already. Ooh, these are fun. Okay, so let's think about, you know, when Grace was mentioning like how like the movement and like, and I called it I called them vectors, you know, in terms of like the directional thrust of the trees. And I think I don't know what the purpose. I think this is actually probably more of a natural study, believe it or not. But we can kind of, if you're, I think we should try to be aware of what direction these, you know, these various clusters are going. And there may not be a lot of design consequences because these are studies for larger, you know, compositions, but knowing that they do have a directional thrust, like these are angled down to the left, and then this one that's below it, which is lighter, you know, comes counter to it and then angles down to the right. Like this has a vector that runs this way. This has a vector that runs that way. So let's just like bring that to our thinking, and then we'll see if we can see if we can get inside of his head and see what he was thinking at these other various, you know, in these other various versions. Another one that echoes the one that we just did. So I didn't seen that before, but this cluster, the large cluster, now there's a smaller cluster right above it. Kind of nice. And there's a little teeny one above that. Now we start to finally see with the trunk. And the most elegant line, I think, in the entire composition is this one delicate branch that bows down, bows up, bows down, bows up, and then down finally again and runs off screen. This one reminds me of a leaf. So this is a photocopy, so I can draw it. If you imagine it with a solid silhouette, you could see it as a, you know, as almost a leaf itself. And unfortunately, I missed that. So I might do that on the other side. I might do a mirror image of it. Dips down, dips, swells up, swells down, swells up, and then swells down again. And I can see in my mind's eye this whole leaf mass. And so then I'll have maybe some of my vectors squiggling down to the right, up and to the right, down and to the right, up and to the right, down and to the right. That's nice. And those are just blurred vectors. There's no silhouetted edges. So that's the branch is almost perceived as being, you know, on the other side of the tree or further away. The silhouetted edges of the branches are on the side of the tree that's kind of coming at us. And there's some here and there's some here. Most of the branches are the type of marks that I just made for this one. Little branch. And it's almost a redo of the first round of grays. And in a way, hopefully you guys are seeing, you're like, this is kind of easy, you know. I mean, hopefully you're feeling like that. And then that can give you the confidence and the, you know, to go out and know that you have this in your tool belt when you're faced with a massive tree that has a gazillion leaves that's in full bloom for the, you know, in the spring leading into the summer, you know, where you can record enormous amounts of information with great economy when you simplify the mark making and accept it, and just accept that you're not going to get all the leaves. So once you accept that, then you don't have to even try for it, and then there's no disappointment. And then it's just the glory, the magnitude of the mass of the tree. I mean, this is very fast. It's 10, you know, we started at 9:30. I talked for too long, but I mean, this sketch I think has taken what, like 15 minutes the most since we started drawing. Oh, that's why I'm stuck on that. there's really not much happening up in this top left-hand corner. So that's good for us. So this other bush at the base, you see more of the trunk, and we're going to get some heavier marks for sure, and it'll be less tonal. I mean, excuse me, more higher contrast, which is what I meant to say. More tonal, wider range. Start with this little ambiguous tree trunk. The trees seem to split at this moment. You know, the trunk splits into, you know, that's the trunk singularly, then the trunk splits into two, keeps climbing up, separates into some branches. And then there are not many twigs, but some are there. So you get this trunk shoots off into the branch, and then the branch separates into twigs. And then the stems of the leaves, which we don't see any of, is like the final lane before we get into the leaf. Maybe you guys can explain it to me, because I don't know. What kind of anti-gravity force do you know is it that gets water to these the tops of the trees? The phenomenon. I mean, we have a heart that pumps blood. What brings water? Is it like cell transfer? I mean, it's not.
Am I remembering this correctly? I don't know, from biology. Is there like the phloem and the xylem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One goes up, one goes down, kind of like veins and arteries. You're right.
Capillary action.
But it's not. But there's a pump with a heart. There's like a muscle, and so it must be like a suction.
They dissolve through the roots by osmosis.
It's interesting. I don't know.
Using capillary.
Yeah, xylem action through capillary. Xylem what? Xylem. Xylem. And it's that force is greater than obviously the force of gravity by a lot.
Yeah, it must be, yeah.
So it is pressurized. Yeah, and if you think about like a minimal amount of, like when you get your blood pressure done, you know, the little bit of pump from the hand, you know, that wraps around your arm, like how quickly that pressure and how strong it is. I don't know if that's the same phenomenon, but it's fun to think about. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start with my next round of angled tones, just setting the stage for my topical mark making. So I'm just like guiding my mind all the way through what is going to be loosely the silhouette, you know, the zones of trees. Oh, those are fun. These come up to the right. These zigzag up to the left. This comes up the middle. You can make marks that angle up to the left. You can make marks that angle up to the right while maintaining the same 45-degree angle with your, which is efficient, very efficient. And that's the efficiency is not necessarily about making more. It's about not becoming overwhelmed when there's so much tree, when there's so much content. How can you distill your technique to represent it without hurting your brain, without frustrating your soul? Then it won't get done. You know, these blocks are not imaginary. Many blocks are imaginary, but it's very real being faced with so much information. Oh, nice. These are coming down to the left. I love that. He's able to do it. Reminds me of a cloud. These clusters in the middle. We're gonna have to do pretty soon. We're gonna have to, you know, punch our darks, and possibly even pull out some of our lights. Punch our lights with the eraser because we're using light marks on a dark. We're using dark marks on light paper. So in order to lighten up our tones, we'll have to use the eraser. And then we'll have to look for where the darkest elements are and emphasize those. Whether they be in the trees, whether they be in the shadows. There's not many shadows. Yeah, I forgot to blend out my initial marks, which is okay. So pretty. And it's liberating. I feel liberated because there's not that, it's just a bunch, it's squiggles.
Yeah.
And there's some edges that offer silhouettes. There's some tones, but very limited directions. And, you know, and like we've talked about enclosures, left side, right side, all of the tree branches are, you know, sketched in these enclosure blocks. Left side, right side, left side, right side, left side, right side. And then
you notice that on this tree, his curlicues are underneath rather than over. They're sort of where the dark is underneath, you know,
yes,
the underside of the branch rather than the overhanging.
the top side. Yep. Yes, so it's that concept where you have, if you have a tree branch here that's light on the top and then dark on the bottom, right? Is that what you mean, Adele?
Yeah, and that's where his squiggles happen on this right side tree,
Mm-hmm.
on the dark underside of the branch rather than the light over.
The shaded side.
Yeah, it's a different technique.
It is.
It's funny, these are in such contrast to the generic quality of his paintings because they're so wild and kind of unfettered.
Yeah, and I think that I think that's we're gonna find it. I think we're gonna find that spirit in the actual landscapes too. But I don't know. Oh, there's some really fine ones if you look a little bit deeper. I think those little finishing touches, you know, bring it into another place. You know, another level of detail that kind of overwhelms the viewer to have the, you know, have the infinity response. You know, you have the, when you look at nature, you have to, you only see a little bit. I mean, because there's so much, you have to, you're, in order to just exist, you have to edit out so much. So if your drawing has so much complexity that the viewer has to edit it down, and it's just like, it's almost like a combination. It's almost like when you hear a piece of music, it's, you know, the symphony orchestra is, you know, so many components that it's over, you hear it and it's just, boom, it hits you and you're like, how is that even possible? But each part at each time can be, you know, separated and distilled and then, you know, isolated, and then all together, that has an altogether another impact. And I think this is the same kind of thing. So whether it's an audio overwhelming experience or visual overwhelming, it feels like it has that profound effect where it's almost sublime. Oh dear, let's see. All right, looks like we're going on the news again for summer camp.
Yay.
Mhm.
It's going to be a different summer camp this year than last year, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, we still try to stay outside as much as possible.
Yeah.
Just because it's summer and it's wonderful. Last year it was definitely a COVID thing.
Yeah.
Everybody finish?
Yeah.
Just about.
And I think this says pencil. I think he's actually using lead. I think lead had many of the same properties as graphite, but it was a little bit greasier, and I think was able to go maybe 2 or 3 degrees darker in terms of the richness of the darks. I have not yet. I have not drawn with lead. I've had my grandpa's had a toolbox that had an actual lead pencil in it, which was kind of cool. But that was a long time ago. I wonder where you would even, if you could even get one. You know, just as we have lead paint. I mean, it's equally as toxic as a lead pencil. Not like people are eating their pencils. I never got that.
I don't know, maybe.
More lead in the pipes than there are in the pencils.
Yeah.
All right, that was good. All right, so I'm going to put this next one down.
Can we see what everyone's done?
Yeah. I so much want to be more precise and detailed, but I just have to do squiggles.
Yeah, that's the job.
Yeah.
That's the job.
That's the exercise, yep. But I have to say, it does make drawing a tree much easier.
Let me just stop the share real quick. Okay, great. I pinned you.
Me? Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, those are real nice. That's the.
Yeah.
Can I see the whole page too?
Oh, it's the others. It's the
Yeah,
snake.
I know, but that page is dynamite.
Yeah.
You could even, you may even go at the base of those trees, like maybe push it even darker, just so you can have subtle notes, so it can even connect with the whole Facebook page.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that that's the goal, but. Okay, Adele, how about, can we get yours?
Sure.
Please.
Oh, nice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So smoky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a huge advantage going into nature. Having this, having this knowledge of economy and limited strokes, and you can embellish on the concept based on the tree that you're looking at too.
Yeah, I went back to this tree and added some of the the underneath squiggles
technique.
I like that technique really. It's very expressive.
Did you come back in with an eraser and clean up some of your toned edges as well?
No.
No,
I punched the darks on top of them a little bit.
But did you use it like a tortillion though to get that smoky look?
I did what Trevor did for the first tree, which was to give it some tone and smudge that, and then it worked with pencil line on top.
Nice, so nice.
Really nice, really beautiful. Looks
she's
perfect.
a landscape architect, so I guess she knows how to draw trees.
There you go.
Well, it's always a huge challenge to draw trees, and people have tried all sorts of ways, and they've tried pointillist effects, and they've tried very abstract effects, but it's always this right side tree on the on Gainsborough's is sort of the best way to do it, sort of really to define those clusters, the tiers.
Yeah, the tiers.
Yeah, it's really nice. Really an easy way to do it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Stephanie.
Okay.
Replacing the paint.
Oh,
The usual mayhem.
Oh, it's great.
The contrasts are always so great.
Now, after class, you're just going to have to turn your desk around and look out the window. And draw.
Yeah, right.
All of us. Yeah, all of us have trees outside behind us.
Yep.
All right, great.
Thank you. This was good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think I could maybe look out the window and draw a tree now. Maybe.
Maybe. Well, I think after this one. Okay, yes, no. Yes, no, no. All right. Calling an audible edit. Rotate. We're so lucky. Oh, we live in an amazing age. We can just hand over master drawings in seconds. Through time, space, mail. All right. New Gainsborough. New Thomas Gainsborough. Let's set an actual size. Oh, acetate. Hey, Gabs, can you could you come make a photocopy of this for me? Just black and white. You don't have to do anything. You just open it up and put it on there, and then you shouldn't have to hit anything. If anything, you have to press like 8.5 by 11 rather than 11 by 14, but it doesn't. Just go to the back, press copy. Thank you. Just that one. Okay. Screen shares. I had these pieces of acetate that were on clearance at Michael's, and I just want screen share.
So you can draw over it?
Yeah, yeah.
I love when you do that. Yes.
I know. And I think I have the thing. I have the thing to do it with. Yes. All right, hold on, let me stop. Can you see my photo?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in a weird place then.
You know, a good way to do it is with an Apple Pencil on your iPad.
Oh.
No, I don't have that though.
But that's I've done that. I've followed some of the things you've done that way, and it's been fun because I could keep it. You could save it.
Right, yeah, you save it.
I'll go get it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just a little, hopefully it's not shiny. It's not too shiny. I usually like my paintings shiny. But this. Yes, it's gonna work. If I flatten it out, it's not too shiny. Or
Did you send us that one, Trevor?
I did. I emailed it.
Yeah.
So that's that. Oh, maybe it's the overhead lights. Let's hope it's the overhead light. Wait, I think it does it on the right. Okay, so I can do this a couple different ways. This one's called Wooded Upland Landscape. Here, you guys might want to take a photo of this. So I did not email this part. This is the content part. Black chalk and stump. Resembles. Yeah, there's other examples.
Washes.
But it's mostly pencil with blended. I mean, there looks like there's some washes, but very, very little. Did it come through?
Yeah, I got it.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
What does he mean by stump? I mean, a tortilla?
Yeah, tortilla. And it's 11 by 14, which is not, I can't imagine that it's 11 by 14. It doesn't make sense, but I don't know. I don't know how it could be 11. And it says it's even 11 by 15. Because it's 14 and 11/16 inches. There's no way that's the proportion of this rectangle. But what are you going to do? Okay, so I might do this a couple different ways, but we'll start off this way first. I think I'm gonna get a little tape. You forgot to bring it? No worries, dude. Okay. Put this in the middle. Not there. Not gonna move. Right, it doesn't move. Yeah. Yeah. All right. This explanation is going to be so good. I can't wait to do it. And again, I have not done this, so hopefully we'll discover it as we go. This will be like the bare bones. The thing that got me most excited about this entire piece is it feels like a country cottage, but it's the prism of this hill right here.
Mm.
So that, and I suspect that, you know, it's almost like a dual prism. There's this little guy that's right next to it. So it's not, so it is actually two kind of like A-frame houses. You know, this being in shadow, and then this one being in shadow. Now, that's not how you enter the picture. You enter the picture over the crescent moon mound, which is really the path. So where you actually enter the picture is this arc, which will basically be our first mark. And this is what I've been, I think what we did last week, which we'll start from the front and we'll draw going back. And then as we tone it, we'll start toning from the back wall, moving all the way forward. So then here's the crescent moon mound. So you get the curvature to that. So this is going to be grass. And then this will be the path, which comes, you know, imagine like a train tracks. It's going to come in this way and then back down the hill. It's going to wrap around our first prism. And then that path is going to carry us beyond the, you know, the cows are not on the path, believe it or not. The cows are on the far side of the prism, but the path goes behind the cows, and then that's going to turn and make another corner. So it starts going left, makes a turn right, hairpin turns left, hairpin turns right, and then it goes up this little hill here. And then then it turns left again across this path. And then it's going to hairpin turn up into our cottage. And the last hairpin turn is on the edge of a cliff, which is wild. Cool. Other 3D components along the path. You know, I don't know what this is. This might be like bushes or something, but this is all decorative on that side. There is a there is a wedge shape or the corner of a box here. So you get the side of the cliff here, and then this is grass. And then you get the side of this cliff here, path, and then you get a grass mound that's up here. I'm just using like dots to represent grass, whatever. There is, you know, a cluster of bushes which we can add, you know, that eases the transition between those two cliffs. But so far we've got this prism. I guess this will be a valley. We can call this a valley here. And then we got this cliff, that cliff, and then the cottage. And the reason the A-frame, you know, prisms of the foreground, you know, work so nicely is because there's this house, which is an A-frame cottage house right back there. That's on the other side of the mound. So the path is in front of our prisms. This prism is in front of this prism. This prism is in front of the valley. The valley is in front of this cliff, which is like a softer cliff, low cliff. And then there's this steep cliff. And then the path takes us beyond the ridge, and then the house is beyond that. So, and if you look at it, that takes care of, you know, this entire, what would you say? Is that like 1/3 of the picture? I'd say if you take a diagonal that runs up, I'll just do like this dotted line that runs up. I'd say that's at least 1/3.
Yeah.
So we're winding from, and then you enter into the picture leading all the way up to here. Now the next path is going to be a little bit more rugged. This is like the human path. This is the path that, you'd have to, probably be, we're going to basically do the other frame. So like having this, kind of like epic beginning to the picture, which takes you in the land of the living, the people. We're going to move into more deeper landscape, and the deeper landscape is going to be in 4 parts. And this is going to be really fun to build the 1, 2, 3 layers of the mountain ridge on the other side, which is the other side of the V. So there's a V which angles up and to the right, then this mountain angles up and to the left, and that V shape gets us the trees, which lead us all the way from, and the tree progression in the middle, that leads us up to the mountains in the distance is spectacular. And there's this, and just to, well, so it's going to be the cliff on the left. It's going to be the trees leading up to the mountains, then the mountains, and those happen in 3 levels, and then we'll get the clouds. And we'll see. We'll have a look at what that looks like. So as far as the 3 clusters of the massing, and I honestly, I really hope to get some help from you all, because I'm not exactly sure. I mean, maybe this first cluster of hill, I'm going to call it an S curve. We've got a lot of straight line path over here. The path is curvy, but the landscape is full of straight lines. So maybe this low hill here being an S curve, where we've got the sheep. The sheep are on the edge of the peninsula, and then also in this low hill, there's this light side, shadow side, this little mound. I don't know what that mound is, but there's this low hill, and then along that low hill, we have this cluster of trees. So these are, remember, we want to think about the trees almost like they were placements on, artificial trees on a design for a train set. And then we'll have this next wedge. So I don't know what you would call this form. It starts all the way down here and it goes all the way up. I guess it's just a hill. And then the third mountain is steep cliff. So it goes up, steep, and then across, relatively shallow steep, but still steep. And it goes up heavy again before it flattens out. And we get this nice little mountaintop, which is level enough to have trees and foliage and a nice little generic set of marks that on the top of that. So this is, the erosion here is so heavy that nothing can really live. And the side of the cliff is steep. But as it reaches the crown of the hill, more plants can live. And that frames off that side. So we'll go 1 and then 2 on this steep, very interesting. And I think maybe we'll come back to that and see if we can figure out really what makes that up. And then we'll do 3 on this mountain here. So 3 components here. And let's follow these trees all the way back. We're going to do on the right, left. So we'll do this snowball or sphere. The light, now becomes obvious. The light is from the top left. So this is a sphere, nothing more than a sphere. I mean, call it a tree, call it a sphere, whatever you want. It's got a light side, a shadow side, light side, shadow side, reflected light. And those trees get smaller as they run up the edge of that ridge. These trees up here aren't part of the valley cluster. These trees over here are really part of the human realm. They're part of the house, part of this cliff. You could even argue that this first row of trees is the transition from the human realm into the distant tree realm. And you just got to get these snowballs as they go back. It's beautiful. So this one is in front of this one, which is in front of this one, which is behind this one, this is behind that. And then these clusters just keep getting smaller as they go back and layering as they go back. And they get smaller. This one is in front of this one, which is in front of this one, which is in front of these couple. We get another valley, believe it or not, another valley, another hill, and then another row of these distant trees layering back. And I'm using this unbelievable Sharpie, which has no subtlety whatsoever, which is the point of this whole thing. But the trees get super, super small. So large trees, which are spheres. And the fact that he defines these first snowballs allows the rest of them to be highly simplified. Valley, hill, trees. And then, oh my God, there's even more. There's even more that are super small at the base of that mountaintop. I don't know much about the mountains. They're very far off. But I can say that if you follow the light shade idea, there's low hills, light side, shadow side, light side, shadow side, and then we can at least get the big ones. So there's this big one this way, and then the largest pyramid, light side, shadow side that way. The lines are so faint that they almost, it's hard to tell the difference almost between the mountains and the clouds. The clouds conform to the same, lighting arrangement, meaning you have the light side of this cloud, you have the shadow side of this cloud.
And the mountain kind of mirrors that.
Did you see that? I made a prism.
Yeah.
I made a prism pair, just like in the foreground. Wow.
Yeah, the mountains kind of mirror that cottage on the high right side there.
Yeah, I can't tell if they are mountains or if they're clouds. I'm looking at it. You have this like little.
No. I mean the mountain, the actual big mountain in the middle.
Yes, looks like the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost the same size as the house.
It looks like Cezanne's mountain. He does.
Yeah. What mountain is that?
I can't remember.
Mount Cordon Bleu. Cordon Bleu. No, thank you. All right, so I just cleared it off. Framed it off rather.
Wow.
Look at that action. So these trees here were also begun with these clusters, and I think we'll have a good time with these trees. In finding their blocky nature, using marshmallows, light top, side, shadow side. But those are, these are all like the details. This is seeing all of the elements, starting from the mound to the prism, leading up the path to those various levels of cliffs, jumping to the other side, following this cliff to the top, tree, mound, cliff, and then these beautiful tree blossom snowballs that lead us all the way back to the mountain, populating that whole V shape of the middle. And then in the same way that we have this structure for the house, we will use lighter lines than even the house, but a similar size to get that far distant Cordon Bleu mountain. I can't believe the prismatic nature of the cloud. I was not seeing that. Usually when you're below on the ground looking up, usually you're seeing, if I were to draw another one, you'd see this side, and then you see a substantial amount of the bottom of the cloud. So there's the underside that is ultimately in shadow because the light's coming from above it. But it's kind of tilted forward, which is interesting. And it's ephemeral and semi-transparent, so clouds are break the rules a lot, I guess you would say. All right, do we dare? Do we dare try this? We've got an hour. That's more than enough time to talk about Gainsborough's masterpiece. Again, the title is, I wonder if it gives us, the title tells us anything more now. The Wooded Upland Landscape with figures, cattle, and sheep. Yeah. I wonder what wooded upland means. So you kind of, I mean, I get it. I mean, it does do that. It moves, you know, we're kind of going uphill the whole picture. But I wonder if upland is an actual place.
Yeah, it's a higher elevation kind of a.
So it is so it's a generic description of a landscape rather than like,
Yeah.
I live in Rutland or Upland
No,
or
no.
Cockeysville.
No, it's like coastal plain and upland and mountain.
I mean, this has kind of a beauty just by itself. The my clumsy Sharpie mark.
Yeah, no, it does.
I guess if I were to fix this, I would add more grass. Nice symbol for grass.
You could use that, just give it to students and say, what is this?
It's an alien invasion. My clouds look like aliens.
That's great analysis. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I was
on my iPad.
pleasantly surprised.
I got it on my iPad. Look.
If you could screenshot that or whatever, it's just save that file and send it to me. I would love it.
It's fun. It's really fun.
Ooh, there's an original Trevor tree. That's my backyard. Okay, is this going to be big enough? Yes, just barely. So this poor cow's going to have to wait. I guess we could put him. We could extend the composition slightly and bring him, introduce the cow into the picture. That would be so fun. He could sit right here at the bottom. Oh my gosh, I'm not scared. I'm more excited. It is amazing the relief that comes from a well-considered analysis.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and this is a. If I haven't been doing that, it's a mistake. I should have been. Okay, so I am going to start with setting up the bottom of my picture because for both the Zoom purposes and because because the way we conceived of it, I do think he thinks this way. You know, I mean, a lot of times when you're a painter, you're like, well, how are you going to enter into the picture? Well, you enter into the picture by setting up setting up this path. You know, this can be like the original germ of the concept of how to begin this thing. And I think it's important to see too that this is the path. So I'm going to put some horizontal strokes there. And then there's the edge of the path, which, you know, has erosion. And I think we're going to find erosion perhaps may be a theme throughout this picture. And if I just thinking in those terms, the side of this feels like it's eroded away. The side of this mountain is eroded away. There's erosion on both sides, but everything's leading into the valley. But it's a consideration. So this erosion at this edge is, you know, echoed here and there, and probably up here actually. I'm wondering if there's anywhere else in the path. Nope, it's happening here too. Yes. Okay, great. Remember where I was like, there's a mound here and I don't know what it's doing. Well, it's furthering it's echoing the erosion that's happening on the larger scale in the foreground. It's happening in the middle ground. Good.
I think there's a stream down there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If there's not, there will be.
Yeah.
Definitely will be. And there seems to be some like foliage, some like grass that's on this side too. So, and then in this very low corner, you really see I actually drew the curvature of the path going around the prism as being off screen. And it's not even off screen, it's in the picture. It just happens to be in the shadow of the prism. So that's actually really a nice, that's kind of nice too. So we roll up this side, we know that there's the side of the prism. We got to figure out how high this can go. We have a lot, I'm drawing, you can already tell that my path is a little bit too high. And then if my path goes up too high, then perhaps the edge of my initial prism, the grazing field may be too high. I know I've got plenty of room up above because of all the sky. I could, as I'm drawing my own personal picture, I know I've got lots of real estate up here to mess around with. Starbucks has these strawberry acai berry refreshers. They're relatively low calorie and fabulously delicious. We've got the edge of the path, the road, and then that is echoed by the lower of the two prisms, and where that low prism enters into both the dirt and the shadow. Great. And we need a delicate line separating the one prism from the other. So I'm going to climb up the top here. And this may be a miniature, flatter version. No, it's not a miniature. It is a direct echo of, there's a large mountaintop here, and then a low mountaintop here, and then a third, much smaller mountain. So it goes 1, 2, 3, and this goes 1, 2, and then 3. So the immediate foreground is being repeated in the very, very far distant ground. And that's microcosm, macrocosm. And it's one of those things that makes it rings as having theme and variation, on pushing the extremes of the difference in scale. There's these basic like stick figures with the shepherd, shoulder to elbow, torso to pelvis, hip to knee, knee to ankle. And then he's got his little hat in his face. We can come back in. The front of his face is in shadow, but he is in fact a shepherd. This is the first, we have the first prism is in front of the second prism. This low hill is in front of this second low hill. So the light comes forward, the dark recedes. There's another hill right here, put a line, and then that same hill that was light up against that dark becomes dark up against the light of the hill that's in front of it. And the light source is from the top left. And so the left side is going to be lighter, the right side, especially as this, mound kind of turns away from the light source, goes into the shadow where the fella is sitting on the crest of it. And again, I'm not really doing full-blown shading in here. I'm just getting, you know, basic placement, but it's in order to get the right form, you really have to you have to know what it's doing. And there's a lot of ambiguity in this area too. I have no idea what's happening in here. I love how this hill goes down. And this would be a nice time, you know, to use the tortillon, because, you know, these, you can use darker marks and really, really detail them, or you can just place them in softly as a placeholder for the shadow side of an object that's been observed. And lucky for us, we're in a pretty, you know, this is a nice building block. Ooh. All right, so I don't know if this is true. I know stuff you were requesting a stream, which we can do. Let's just see how the path. Let's see where the road takes us. We're gonna make the path makes this hairpin turn to the right, and it's gonna start to go up the hill here. But at the edge, beyond our mountain, or beyond this prismatic ridge, I like the idea of this being a little pond or a lake back here. So I'm going to put a little duck on there. And then this becomes the edge heading up the hill. So we get the first cliff. And then some grass. Then we get the second cliff. And then we'll be up into the, you know, where our house is going to be. So yes, I'm drawing kind of quickly, but there's our first tree. Thank God. We're going to get to put that foliage lesson to work. All right, so here's our little lake, our little pond, which is delightful. We're going to indicate the path by showing the treads of the wagon wheels and just using a dark line to define the side of it. Most of the background of the edge of the lake here, we don't. There's not much detail because there's these figures, and there's a little shepherd. Looks like a shepherd woman, just on that far side of the ridge. Or maybe it's a child. Who knows? And then you have these two sets of cows. Now, part of the reason I had the cow lesson built into today, which we didn't do, and the foliage at the same time, is that by doing too much on the foliage and getting too many details into the cow, like by doing all of it, so you do nine parts out of 10 parts for the cow, or maybe you do 20 parts out of 20. When we're sketching this cow or this tree, you're going to use 3 parts or 4 parts out of 20. Out of the 20 or 50 things you know about the cow, in order to get this cow, you know, you only need like 5 things and about 20 marks versus, you know, 200 marks. So one of the things we would have gone over is, you know, this triangular prism of the pelvis, and it leads down into the trapezoidal prism of that epic thigh, hits the knee at the bottom of the rib cage, and then it goes from knee to ankle, and then it goes from that ankle down to the ball of the foot, which disappears beyond the edge of the hoof. So you're getting this ankle to foot. And unfortunately, this guy doesn't give us a tail. So I'm going to do the cow tail. And then cows, they're have these big barrel bellies, just chewing grass all day. These flat backs and the spine dips in. And then these massive necks, 2 horns, 2 ears, trapezoidal face, and then long necks dipping down between those 2 legs. It's not fair for me to do all of this without having the cow lesson, but what I'm just trying to get this basic stand in. And this is kind of fun here. If you go from this triangular tip of the back of the pelvis, follow the sweep of the spine into the trapezoid of the neck. You have the trapezoid of that upper thigh, and then the big barrel of the belly. And you have the trapezoidal cow head, forehead. There's no horns on this one, but I'll put it in anyway. 2 horns, 2 ears. I think it's okay for them to be stand-ins here. We're going to do this path. We're going to do this path leading up to the house. And we're going to go lake, valley, ridge, grass, cliff, grass. Now, the best part is that behind the cows, he doesn't even know what's happening there either. But if you look at the way his marks go, hairpin turns to the right, hairpin turns to the left, hairpin turns to the right, hairpin turns to the left, and then it stops. And that's essentially what our path does here. So hairpin turns to the left, hairpin turns to the right, hairpin turns to the left, hairpin turns to the right. So this little miniature background looks like smoke coming out of the nostrils of our cow. It's, again, you have the main rhythm of the path leading up to the house, and you have a secondary rhythm leading up the side of the ridge, which is purely abstract. When I say purely abstract, it is like, you can't tell if it's dirt, you can't tell if it's shrubs, you can't tell if it's just a dark smudge that is intentionally echoing the movement of what is observable, which is the side of the path. Cool. Oh no. Decline. We were supposed to have fixed that on the iPad. Maybe it reset if I. Oh God. Decline. Yeah, what a treat. You got the path that curves, sweeps to the left, gradually goes up a hill, continuing on to the right till we get to the far extreme of the picture. And this turn here, this hairpin turn to our left, kind of conforms to the same edge of the zigzag edge of the mountain. So then it's going to arc into this little peninsula before that path disappears over the hill as well. And the whole foundation of the house is beyond the hill. This little window. The chimney is a triangle, and the right side just has a thicker line. That's how the 3D form of it is shown. So nice. Okay, so that's the movement. So now there's a couple things that this is where my big shining moment was, where you make these abstract marks, and we can use a tortillon to occupy this right side of our picture here. So we've established the right side of the picture perfectly in conjunction with all of the obnoxious iPad icons. And, you know, I'm going to very quickly try to show a little bit of the contour, a little steep hill, a little leveled out here, edge of the road, up, across, up, across. And then the train set add-ons, as I've been calling them. You have a row of trees, a bush here. Oh wow, look, there's a big old tree. Wow, look at that. So you guys tell me what you think about this. I may have been fooled. I actually need help. There is this line right here. It could be a tree trunk.
Yeah.
But is it also, is that tree trunk partially behind the cliff?
Or is there no cliff? Maybe it's just.
Or is there no cliff? It's just this hill that disappears down here.
Yeah, I think there's no cliff.
Wow. What a great day. So for the purpose of art for this class, and for anybody that's actually watching this video, the tree that's right above our little lake that I insisted on putting in here, you have a light side, and then you have the core of the shadow. So there's the light side, and then there's the whole shadow side of the tree. But there is the darkest moment. So then this becomes an egg. You know, so I would need you to see the tree as a sphere, and you just see this tree as an egg, and you know how the light happens. And these are light objects up against dark backgrounds. Now, I don't care what you're using for the texture, the silhouetted edge of the tree to make it appear to the viewer like they are, they are like leafy objects. It really doesn't matter. You have to see that the solid object as a as a form that is, the concept is an egg. The concept is a sphere. You can't draw a tree. You can't draw this tree void of the concept of the sphere and the egg and how it's lit, and how it appears to be a lighter object off of a darker background. It's just like so crucial, because when and then the fun part is then turning it into something that looks like a leafy object, that has some like midtones to it and has some little clusters of tree clusters and branches that come in front. The reason that's so important is because when you come up and you draw all the rest of the accenting bushes and trees along the edge, they all conform to that same lighting arrangement. And when you get in this big exciting tree that I did, that's hanging off, which I assumed was the edge of the lip of the cliff. It has a light side, which we're using light marks. And it has a shadow side, which we're using dark blended marks. And the tree that I'm sketching up here is a compiling of a lot of different forms, tubular forms, conical forms, the flat, but yet still echoing the lighting that we get from the egg and the sphere. So all of these, just become dark objects that have the same light source, which is the sun, which is off screen. And I guess the sun is high enough that none of these plants are throwing shadows, but I mean, I can introduce a little, ooh, that's fun. If he's gonna put this tree trunk in here, I'm gonna throw a shadow on the ground. And if you look at this ridge as you come up, it goes tree, land, or it goes bush, land, bush, land, bush, land, echoing all the way up. And that, very narrow window of space, very narrow distance on the two-dimensional plane, by layering it, you're able to create even that much further depth in the illusion of depth in this two-dimensional plane. So I've discussed it in other classes, but you get the egg, or excuse me, the sphere that's in front of the egg, that is in front of this bush, and then this bush is in front of that bush, which is then in front of this piece, this bush, which is then in front of the land, which is in front of that tree, and then they subsequently keep layering and taking us deeper and deeper into space. And to have this control, to be able to make up landscapes with principle-based decision-making is, it's a testament to Gainsborough's mastery, and we're just thankful for the beauty. The tree that he did up here at the side of the rooftop, it's the left side of the tree is light, and the right side of the tree is super dark. Again, echoing the same, the corresponding lighting. And the whole picture is going to have that, from the very front of the initial prisms all the way to the distant mountains that are so faint that you can't even almost distinguish between mountain and cloud. So the roof becomes an object that's behind the hill, and then the trees beyond the house continue to go back in space. Light side, shadow side. And because I understand it, I have extra room back here, so then I can make my own trees, my own bushes. And the marks that he makes to describe the grass are basically topographical contour lines. Topographical contour lines can be completely imaginary. So it's almost like you have a low hill, you have X direction, and then you have Y direction. And you can have like a large hill on this side. Up and over, up and over, up and over. So topographical contour lines are marks that you can use to describe texture, but they also describe, the gradation and the actual the form of the ground plane. And you see it all in here. You see it at the top of the little hill here, horizontal, angle down, flattens out, angle down, flattens out in this corner. Useful, but not to be overdone. So I'm going to create my little valley here. And your mark making with pencil does give you a wide range, but when you have color, it's even wider. Even more ways to distinguish between, road and grass, cliffs and grass, trees and bushes. Oh, look at all these. These are easy. I love the these little sheep. They're just little white puffballs with dark heads, little dots. That's a treat too. All right, so back to our original S curve of that hill. And then we had this little mound here that expressed some erosion on that side, which is great. The S curve is the spirit of the hill, but there are some light sides and shadow sides, some layering that happens. And there's that one. I'll add another sheep. That sheep is super light up against the dark silhouette. And the dark silhouette is the landscape. That's really the shadow side of this mountain up here. Is he trying to join? Oh no. So Stacy's dog is sick.
Eating too many cicadas.
I mean,
Yeah. I haven't seen too many yet.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
My dog's been munching on them.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think he has cicada belly.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Adele. I got the picture. Looks great.
Oh, good. That's fun.
So look at this. I hope you're not too squeamish about the cicadas, but this was 2 mornings ago. So these were all the larvae in my front yard.
Oh wow.
It was twice as much yesterday, and it was 3 times as many today.
Wow.
So I just picked them up, put them in the bag, and take them into the woods. My front lawn is the size of a postage stamp. We did have a tree there, though. We had a pear tree that we took down 3 years ago, and it's just there's so many. It's going to be so bad. It's going to be
apparently the older the neighborhood, the more cicadas, because the soil has been undisturbed for decades.
Yeah.
Newer developments will have less. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, the community that I live in isn't that old. I think it's only like 30, 40 years old.
Yeah,
but
that's 2 generations of them already. So
right, exactly.
Yeah, we've barely seen any in our yard, which is very.
You're in a very old neighborhood.
Yeah, but we're in a cold hole.
So the ground's not warm enough yet.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Oh, so they're coming.
They're coming. Oh, yeah, they're coming.
Yeah. Okay, so the part that I thought was like going to be my least favorite, not my least favorite, but the part that I hadn't figured out is this little ridge that is, behind. I just blocked out where these trees were going to go. I could even very quickly do a light side, shadow side, to this row of trees along that ridge. Did I just have it a second ago? Rolled away from me. But some of the areas that are like, you're almost blind to, for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is. But this is the one up here. Like, I felt like I got the vertical, horizontal, vertical. It feels like a stepping stone. I like this little curving cylinder of the top of this landscape where all these trees are growing out of it. But this ridge, I don't know if it's like a prism, but it goes left, right, left, right, left, right. And, so it's going to be a continuation of this erosion process. So this erosion down here is echoed up there as well. And then, so it's a combination of erosion and path. So this S-curving path on the right side, S-curving path on the right side, then we have this miniature S-curving, taking you from the trees up off screen, simultaneously having some foliage, and more interestingly, in my opinion, is acknowledging that there's erosion again. So the right side erosion, right side erosion, right side erosion, right side erosion, right side erosion. And then frame, then roof. That the same movement is happening in the roof as well as the texture of that blended side. So that's cool. Right side erosion, left side erosion, right side, left side, and it turns into maybe foliage. This cluster of trees, so nice and almost completely shadowed, completely in shade, I should say. Here we go with our foliage economy. The shadow side of that ridge just really does work nicely, and then the angled contour marks that you can see how he does it too, and everyone's just going to be a little bit different because how thick, how soft your lead is. The softer the lead, the easier it is to the easier it comes off your pencil, and depending on the texture of your paper, changes. So like the thickness of your lead, and then the rigidness and the texture of your paper is all going to determine what these marks look like everywhere, whether they're spotty or crisp, and it doesn't matter what it does look like. It's just a matter that you use it, whatever it might look like. And not only use it, but also accept it. I think that's the harder part, is accepting that this is what your paper looks like today. This is what your pencil is doing today. And if you don't like it, then you can get a different pencil and you get a different textured paper. Again, it's like a lot of it is just bringing it into the, knowing that it's something to consider. And that's why we do these advanced analyses of masterworks. Yeah, the shadow side and the erosion side. So I'm laying in my marks side to side, knowing darn well that the thrust of the mountain, or it's not water, but it does feel like water is how it pours down the side. So I laid in some pigment because I knew it needed to be darker, and I will blend it out, and you'll never know that I laid in horizontal lines like that. But it is a light hill up against the darkness of the trees in the valley. So I'm seeing that coming around the bend. this tree up here it's not an afterthought, but if you look at some of the other, he uses this curving tree, all the time. The dead tree. Yeah. It's like it's got to be one of his signatures.
Exposed to the elements.
Okay. I'm using my my big pencil unapologetically. The big pencil, I could switch over to like a 6B or a 4B or an 8B or something like that. To get the deep darkness, but I think the pencil, it goes dark enough for this analysis. So probably needs more pigment. So I got there's a miniature world that you can get lost in at the top of this hill. So you got these kind of aggressive, inhospitable, and untraversable cliffs that lead down into our little pond here. And then you have this little miniature world that has shrubs, and it's got this tree, this dead tree. It's got layers of bushes, and then the same trees that are in the foreground, but just smaller. And darker. I think he goes darker so that they can have a handsome silhouette up against the really bright sky. Even though the artist doesn't use intense silhouette lines very often. If you look at the way that this whole contour line at the edge of the mountaintop going down, from the first ridge of the mountain to the second ridge of the mountain to the distant trees coming all the way over, it does have a relatively, you could cut out that line. It can be soft at some times, but you could almost cut it out with a scissor. And so as you're making your own lines, be aware of that. There's a clear distinction between the land realm and the sky realm above it. And I love what's going to happen because it seems like the picture is so far from being completed, but all of the work, I mean, I'd say we're 92% of the way done, believe it or not. We have to get the cluster of these trees, which may be somewhat tedious, and then it's all going to be the echoing of these eggs and spheres leading off. But it's such a small part of real estate, and there's so few details that one of the trees of the egg or the sphere that we did in the beginning, one of those is 5 times more work and analysis than all of the trees combined. And each one of those little circles that I put in representing the trees going off in the distance, I'm going to lay in a little bit of shadow for the shadow side and then unify them all by blending them out, just as Gainsborough did, softening the edges, softening their contrast, pushing them way back. And not only pushing them back, but kind of minimizing their importance. So they're further off in the distance. And if you ask me, this is going to be the fun part, because the next series, as we follow these trees up to the low hills, you got to use really light lines, because even when you blend out your pencil, it gets darker. So you got to anticipate that. We'll do my first little mountain here. And then I'll do notice there's passage. So passage is when the line of the object behind disappears before it touches the object in front of it. And our 2 mountains are separated through passage. I mean, I just drew a mountain and a valley in 25 seconds. And it's because of the investment of everything in the foreground that allowed for that. And so it's just amazing what is able to be, the work that can be is seemingly, the magnitude that you just accept as a viewer is just in the art realm so small. I suspect the clouds are going to be equal in subtlety and efficiency. Meaning it's not going to take very many marks. And it's going to be very light marks to represent those clouds. And then I can define much needed to find the very top of my picture, because the picture is vignetted, believe it or not. When I say vignetted, I mean the corners are darkened, and there is atmosphere in these corners that minimize the attraction that the eye has to a horizontal and a vertical joining. And every rectangle that you work in has a horizontal at the top, horizontal at the bottom, and verticals on either side. And with nothing in the picture, that intersection of those two lines create a point, and they create a level of attraction, meaning your eye will go there. And by vignetting, meaning darkening the corners and softening the transition from the light sky into the edge, it minimizes that attraction and allows the viewer to remain focused where the artist wants you to look, which is in the picture. He doesn't even want you to notice that there is a rectangle. He wants you to cross through the threshold of the picture plane and live inside of his reality that's been created for your own enjoyment. But you can tell he enjoyed making these little squiggles for these clouds way up in the distance. And as I promised in the beginning, which it never always goes that way, we were supposed to start from the foreground and march our way back, which we did. And then we want to start from the back and reevaluate our tones and each one of our each one of the subjects, everything that's in the picture. And I did allow myself to get a little bit detailed, I think, in the middle realm, which I don't feel bad about. But as I can come back through and I can reassess in detail, really, all of the components that have been sketched out. And the way that we've done it, and the amount of time that we've spent looking at it, a lot of these details can be realized relatively quickly. The main part that I have, I don't want to say left out, but the tonality, the anchor of the whole piece, it's going to be the shadow side of this erosion on this side of our prism. And it is nice to see human activity.
Yeah.
But it's not the point of the picture, but it's an important component for sure. So, these cows deserve deserve realization, and so do the figures, the shepherds themselves. You can almost see him going through this process too, punching his darks. Look at that cow. I made him too skinny. He looks like a deer.
I'm amazed at how just putting that shape for the cow's face make it look like a cow. That and the straight back.
And that it would have been Adele, it would have been even more impressive had we spent the hour and a half or 2 hours drawing the fully detailed cow, because then you'd be like, well, we spent 2 hours sketching every little moment, and then at the same time all I did was do 9 marks and it looks like a cow.
Yeah.
It's like, is it worth it? Of course it is. I'm going to turn this little ridge that I originally just decided was a design, I'm going to call it a erosion moment as well. True or not true? Personal truth. Yeah, and all of these marks I'm realizing, because in my mind I've allowed them to be grass. And so all these horizontal strokes, that the contour lines that I was talking about, built up or not, I'm seeing them almost green. So when I put them in, my mind turns to grass. My mind turns it into grass. Wow. I can't believe that ridge. I can't believe that. I'll make it grass too. So I eliminated my cliff and turned it into a tree. Cannot even. Put some cattails down here. I'm glad we changed it at the end. This is a better painting or better design than the other one, I would argue. And he really wants those sheep to stand out, which is great. So he gives us this mid-tone background where you can see it. Like, look at how it probably was an afterthought too. So he comes back in with the tonality, with the blurring technique. Spread some of that pigment and allow the sheep to stand out. Oh yeah. I guess I do have to have these trees. See what I can get away with. Get over these sheep on the ridge. I mean, his are handsome. Mine look like a weird like flea circus. All right, I think I'm done. Who said I don't have classroom management? 12 o'clock on the dot.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Can we have a little show?
Oh God. Not my finest hour, but sure.
All right. Now it looks like a goat herder on my drawing. Let's see. Does anybody want to go first?
I'll go.
All right, thank you, Steph. I'm gonna stop the share after I put this hat on this guy.
It's more like a sketch than a replica, for sure.
Oh, good, good.
Show us that.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm gonna pin you really quickly. It's gonna start.
Oh, nice, nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
As usual, your contrasts are just so terrific.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I use pencil and I use some white pen too.
Oh.
The only thing I would say is in your front left-hand corner and right-hand corner, do something. It doesn't have to,
not finished really.
Right, no, but I mean, I think that you would enjoy the middle more if maybe even just drawing the edge of the bottom and the left and the right.
Okay. Okay. Good idea.
In the frame. But
right.
I mean, you go back into space so nicely, so deep with like all of the engaging mark making that is, you know, your signature. It's great. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, and especially since it's not fully resolved yet. But please.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. Grace, I have you next.
Okay. Lot more to go.
Oh, nice. God. Yeah.
Oh, God. Can you turn the lights on over there? Yes.
Great. You're really working on that valley. Yeah.
Yeah, I switched to 6B, and that actually really helped because I could go over, because I'm always afraid of dark and pushing. So the 6B helped.
That
doesn't give you a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice one. Okay, Adele, let's see what can we see here.
Yeah, work in progress.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
That's wonderful. Nice. I think the scale allowed it nicely.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, Grace, you're
working beautiful.
Large. And Steffi, you're working large too. Small for you, but also large.
Yeah.
Very nice. Oh, the sheep. I see the sheep now. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. I think yours could really be well served for a clean, straight lined silhouette edge. I mean, just like a frame.
Yeah.
Like a ruler, black line.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll make everything inside the picture pop. So important. I will take that advice myself.
Your cows are great.
No.
Yeah.
I know, I love it.
Yeah, a lot more to go though. A lot more work with the contrasts and the edges and all that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
May have been one more.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you. Lots of fun.
Have a great
See
week.
you soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.